Hello and welcome to Frags and Beer Radio Live. Give me 1 second here. This live show to make sure we're getting all our sound through. So welcome to, I think, our 4th episode of Frags and Beer Radio Live. This is the show where I sit and sort of talk to you guys about the cool geek stuff, pop culture stuff, things that have come up over the week. Sort of a week in review, so to speak, and more so to talk about, because one of my big loves is comic books. I write about video games and I cover video games on other streams and on other sites. So mainly I talk about comic books, conventions, and movies and TV shows and things like that on Frags and Beer. We got a new movie season coming up, so I'll be talking about the new Marvel movies that are coming out soon, some of the rumors that I'm hearing with movies and things going on. So a couple of highlights over the last week. As far as TV shows go, we watched Russian Doll on Netflix. Dude, that show's really good. The first episode, my wife and I were kind of like, I don't know. Like, it's odd. It's unique. We like that. We like weird shows. I mean, we were big fans of Dirk Gently. We really like Preacher. We like those kinds of oddball shows. This one was a little weird, a little more weird than we're used to, but it wasn't quite engaging in the first episode. But by the time we got to the third episode, and they're all like 25, 28 minutes long, so they're really quick. By the time we got to the third episode, we were hooked, and we actually watched the whole season, all, 10 episodes or 12 episodes in one night. We just didn't stop. We got to the next to last episode. It was our bedtime. We're old people. I get up super early. As any of you know who see me on Twitter, I'm on like 4:30. I'm up. 4 o'clock, I'm up making coffee and breakfast and writing and stuff. So I was ready for bed, but we needed to know what happened. We had to find out. So Russian Doll, super good show. It's the actress who plays Nikki in Orange is the New Black, but was also in Blade. She was the leader of that group of kids in Blade Trinity, I think. She was really good in it. Fantastic. The cast was great. The writing is great. That keeps you on the hook through most of the season, most of the series, and really makes you want to find out what's happening next. The other thing I got to see was Ant-Man and the Wasp. We didn't see it in theaters. We didn't get a chance to go to the theater when it was out, so I watched it on Netflix recently. Really enjoyed it. It was a really good Marvel film. It was a really solid film. It was entertaining. Good effects, had a good story. I mean, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't like one of the best Marvel films I've seen, but it was really solid. It was really good. I would put it right in the middle of Marvel films. Definitely worth a watch if you didn't get a chance to see it in the theater, or if you haven't seen it yet. It is on Netflix on their instant watch. So pardon me too, I'm fighting a cold. If you know that I missed Monday's stream because it was kicking my ass Monday, I'm still trying to get it out of my chest and head, my sinuses and whatnot. So I'm hydrating, as you should, and so pardon me. Also on the did I miss something? We got Walking Dead coming back this Sunday. Still a big fan. I wasn't sure what would happen when Rick was taken off the show. If you guys, I'm sorry, spoiler alert if you aren't watching the series. I wasn't sure if they'd be able to keep going or keep it engaging without that central character that has been with the show since the beginning, and they did a really good job so far. I'm really interested in the story. I'm really curious to see where it goes next with the Whisperers and all that stuff coming up. So I'm really intrigued to see what the last half of this season does and where they go from here. It also leaves a lot of questions of where we're going to go with Fear next year. I did Fear the Walking Dead got better after about the second season, halfway through the second season. It really did pick up and get much better of a show. We'll see. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but that also means soon we're going to have Into the Badlands coming back and Preacher coming back, 2 shows that I really like. So I'm looking forward to those returning. So that's sort of your TV and movie news. Looking forward to the Marvel shows coming up. Looking forward to Avengers and Spider-Man, and I'm going to give Captain Marvel a shot. I know the marketing for Captain Marvel has sucked. The way they're promoting that movie really sucks. Like, they're really pushing a particular type of ideal or target audience quite honestly, it doesn't make any sense. You're not going to fill the seats with one particular demographic. You really need to be marketing to every demographic for this type of movie. But they seem to have been really targeting one demographic, and I don't know. I don't know if the movie's going to do that or not. I don't know if it's just the marketing team hoping to get more women in the theater, but women love the Marvel movies. You don't really need to do much to get women into Marvel movies. My wife loves them. Most of my family loves them. All the women I work with love them. You're not going to have our time getting women in the seats in a Marvel film. So I don't know why they're marketing this one the way they are, but has really turned off a lot of people because it is very aggressively one-sided, exclusionary marketing. It's really stupid, but I'm going to give the movie a shot because it is still a Marvel film, and so far even the worst Marvel films have been really watchable and entertaining. So they'd be hard-pressed. I really don't think Marvel's going to kick out a crappy movie. This may not be one of their better films, but so far they have not failed us. So I'm not certain that we're going to see a complete and total disaster, but I could be wrong. Maybe there. Gaming news. So a couple things going on right now. I got to eat a little crow for you, and I wish I could stream it, but because of the music and my I don't want my computer, the front of my computer case vibrates slightly. I just had to move it because it was driving me nuts. Anyway, I can't stream it because of the music. I don't want my stream getting flagged for because I'm not monetized, they don't give me a takedown notice, but then they want to monetize my streams for their own benefit, and then they might put commercials on there, and I don't like commercials on my streams because this stuff is supposed to be free. There's a reason I do what I do. So anyway, Grand Theft Auto 5. Ever since the Grand Theft Auto series has come out, I've been pretty against them. Not because I believe that they could cause violence or make people criminals, or I don't believe any of that horse shit, but just the idea of the objective of those games to play criminals, to hurt people, to kill cops, and to do those things, just something I'm really not into. I was never into it. I never really thought I would enjoy it. So Grand Theft Auto 5, I heard about the multiplayer obviously years ago. And then I heard about the RP servers a little more recently, and one of my coworkers played Grand Theft Auto a lot, and he loved it. And he was telling me about the game, and the more I listened to the online or like the RP aspect of it, and I went and got it. I did break down and buy Grand Theft Auto 5, and I have to say, even the main part of the game is enjoyable. I expected a very gratuitous, sort of violent criminal activity type of game, and honestly I've been surprised. There is that aspect of the silly gratuitous violence, and I'm getting stuffy, pardon me, so there is that aspect, the silly missions, the things that are really over the top, like super ridiculous kind of stealing submarines and things that are just completely out of reality. But I have to say that they have had really good stories. Even the Psycho Trevor, obviously named after me, right? He has almost an empathetic storyline, and then he excuse me. Then he turns around into a complete total psychopath. But I really find myself relating to some aspects of all three of the characters. Franklin is doing his best with what he's been given in his life to get himself out of and beyond where he started, and the cards he was dealt aren't necessarily a great hand, but he's played them as best he could. And Michael, obviously he lived a life of crime, but he turned toward family and did his best to try to provide for his family, and his background caught up with him, his past caught up with him, and even then he's still doing his best to provide for and protect his family, which is something I can really relate to and I can understand. And then Trevor, he's one of those people who never can catch a break. Whether it be his anger issues or his bipolar, whatever he's got going on in his head that just doesn't quite mesh with the rest of society, you can understand that. And he doesn't catch a break, and he fails here, he loses this, or this goes wrong and he loses it, and he gets angry and bad things happen, and that leads to a small snowball effect of bad things happening over and over again. So you can kind of understand that if you've ever been down, if you've ever failed or been out of a job, or you've ever seemed like life you just can't catch a break, that's you could sort of relate to that. So I have to admit, I have to eat a little bit of crow. As much as I was against the Grand Theft Auto series from its inception, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a fun game. It's a great game. It's got a really good story, even with its silly, like a movie quality, like over-the-top action blockbuster type of heist that you have to do. At the core of it, it does have a really good story, which impressed me. I was glad to see it. I was happy to discover it, and I'm happy to eat that crow for you on live on the stream and say, after all these years of saying I would never play a Grand Theft Auto game, I have played one, and I'm enjoying it. Still playing it, still working through it, and enjoying it quite a lot. More than probably any game I currently have installed. I'm really having a lot of fun with it. Other gaming news. I did get invited into the private beta for The Division 2, so I will be streaming that tomorrow on Saturday Randomness and probably playing it most of the weekend, so I'll probably be posting things about it, maybe screenshots and different things that are coming up. But I really did enjoy The Division 1. If you want to get my full thoughts on the first game, if you go to highlandarrow.com, my review of The Division is up there still. You can read it. You can read what I thought about the original. Just as a brief overview, I loved the game. It was a beautiful game. It was a lot of fun to play. There was a lot of repetitiveness with the missions, though. There was about 5 or 6 different missions that just repeated over and over and over again. The only difference was the location. It was the same type of mission, just here's it's in an alley, here it's on a rooftop, here it's in a store, and then down there it's in a subway. So you had the same, like the big missions were different, but all the little side missions were all the same, and it got boring. It got to the point where I got about halfway through the game and I stopped doing any of the side missions. Like, I started the first few sections of the city trying to complete everything, getting 100%, and then about halfway through that I'm like, why am I doing this? It's so repetitive, it's so boring. Then I just went straight to the main missions in every section, completed all those, and completed the game. I did stream some of it. You could see on Frags a Beer a couple years ago. You can watch those streams and see what it was like. But tomorrow morning I will be streaming The Division 2 as long as everything goes good. I've got the private invite. I can go download the game, make sure it runs. I don't have any doubt that it'll run. We'll see how it looks and plays on my system, and see how we can stream it. All right, now, hold on. Looked like my laptop was freezing for a second. It's not. Okay, so now on to the comic book pull list of the week. We didn't have a show last week, which wasn't a big deal because we only had one book come in last week. So we're going to add that to the docket of this week's pull list. We're going to talk about the comic books I picked up this week. The first one, I have been reading this book for years. I've actually been reading the comic strip longer than this has been a comic. If you are a role player, you may be familiar with the Knights of the Dinner Table comic strip. It started out in a magazine called Shadis, Shadis, long time ago when Dungeons & Dragons first started. A magazine came out, I want to say it was a year or two after D&D was released in, 77? And Shadis was just a little small print magazine about role-playing, mostly about Dungeons & Dragons. And Kenzer & Co., I don't even know if they were Kenzer Co. at the time, but they had a little comic strip in Shadis. It was a little 3 or 4 panel, one strip, just a little comedy snippet about a group of characters playing an RPG called Hackmaster. At the time, it was completely made up. This game that they played was, imagine the most stereotypical gamers playing the most stereotypical fantasy tabletop RPG, but then put it on crack, like take it to the nth level. You know, you've got the rules lawyers, you've got the munchkins, you've got the power gamers, you've got like the person who will kill everything in the campaign just for an experience point. That is the Knights of the Dinner Table. That's these characters. And so after Shadis, they moved to Dragon Magazine. When Dragon Magazine came out, they moved the Knights of the Dinner Table comic strip there. And eventually they moved to their own comic. It started out as a very small comic book, but it's the same. And if you're familiar with this, the way this worked was when Jolly Blackburn is the editor and the guy behind this, when he first created Knights of the Dinner Table, it was very low budget. It was very, very crude art. And he created it in such a way so that he could just basically copy and paste a handful of panels to make a strip over and over and over again. Eventually he moved into actually drawing every single one, but originally it started out as a very, very crude sort of comic. And what I love about Knights of the Dinner Table even today is it's the same. Like, it's the same crude art. I'm going to show it to you. See, there is no fluff, there is no frills to this art. Now, I am a huge proponent of great art in comic books, but much like Order of the Stick and Knights of the Dinner Table, sometimes crude art can be some of the best art, because this isn't about really super anatomically correct superheroes punching each other. This isn't about sexy heroes, men and women in tights. This is about role players. This is about their story. This is about their characters. So the stories is what is the focus of this book. And what you have is usually it's 4 or 5 different stories split up into strips, and they're continuously running stories. An arc may run for 6 months to a year. It depends on how the story goes. And currently, the characters, the main what they call the Untouchable Trio +1, because originally it was 3 guys and BA was their dungeon master, and then BA's cousin Sarah joined the group, so it became the Untouchable Trio +1. And now in this current run, and it's been this way for a little while now, Sarah is the DM. She wanted to run something unique for the guys, and so she's running a space adventure, which has turned out to be one of the most interesting stories I've ever read in Knights of the Dinner Table. This comic is on its 262nd issue monthly. It has gone from being a comic book to actually being a role-playing magazine. It has taken the place of Dragon Magazine and Shadis before it, where originally you would have gotten about this much comic, you know, a standard 28 to 32 page comic. Now you're getting roughly 64 pages, where the rest of it is, the last half is articles about role-playing, reviews of games, question and answer section, and information about the game that became real. A couple of years ago, Kenzercoat came out with Hackmaster, the game that these characters have been playing for years in Jolly's head, became a real game, and it's one of the most ridiculous RPGs you can ever play. It's one of the most rule intensive, one of the most detailed, but one of the most ridiculous RPGs you could ever play. The critical hit chart, if I remember right, from the Dungeon Master screen, granted, that is like 32 panels. I've got the Dungeon Master screen for Hackmaster, and it folds and opens, and it has all these different panels. It's like 32 freaking panels in the DM screen. But just the critical hit chart, I think, has 1,000 critical hit locations. It's a ridiculous game. But the comic book is hilarious. It's a great read. It is heartwarming. It is nostalgic. If you're a role player or a comic book fan, I highly recommend Knights of the Dinner Table. It's well worth the $5.99 price. I know $5.99 is a little high. Your standard comic book is $4.99, but this is twice the size every month. You're getting a magazine rather than a comic book every month. So it's worth the buy. Highly recommend it. Take a look. The other book that I got, this is one I actually got last week, so this is the one that's on this week, is the new Witchblade. I can't remember if I talked about this one in my first episode. We're coming back around on about a month, so we're going to start repeating some books. This is the one I'm still on the fence about. This issue really did not do anything to change that. I'm waiting for that one episode or that one issue that either makes or breaks the series for me. It was just interesting enough to keep me reading, but it wasn't so interesting that I care what happens next month, which is kind of a disappointment because I really enjoyed the original Witchblade series. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep with this book. Excuse me. It's cold, man. I don't know if I'm going to stick with this one. Something's going to happen. Either this book is going to get super amazing, or they're going to just write some story that's ridiculous and stupid and kill it for me. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I really can't recommend or say don't buy it. I can't. I just don't know. I'm so on the fence about this book so far. We'll see how it goes. It hasn't done anything to make me stop buying it yet, I guess I should say. Fathom is back. Actually, this is a crossover. We talked about the Iris, Executive Assistant Iris issue last month. That was a crossover into, so they're doing a whole series into this and then Soulfire. This is also written by Blake Northcott, which I could say Blake writes some great stuff. Anything you can find by Blake Northcott, pick it up. She's a great writer. Love her characters. I love her banter. I love the dialogue in all the books I've read of her so far. Looking forward to picking up her actual book, the North Valley Grimoire. Haven't gotten it yet, but I'm going to try to get it. I wish I could remember. I need to remember to buy a copy of that book. And art in this is by Michael Sta Maria is the artist. Really good artist. As you can see, the art. I mean, Aspen Comics has always been known for a good stable of artists. They always pull in really good talent to do their books, as far as I've seen anyway, especially when it comes to art. And this one is no disappointment. So this crosses over. So I don't want to give away too much, but Iris and Aspen are caught in sort of a time of something is going on with time, because as you can see from this and from the panels, she's in like a Victorian era. Iris was in ancient China in that issue. So this is going to cross over, and I think next month it goes into Soulfire, which is a series I've never actually read. And I think I had my guy put that on just because it's a crossover and I want to make sure I catch the whole story. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of crossovers, but this one is like a mini series. It's like a short. It's not like where you have to buy 5 different X titles every month for 10 years to keep up with what's going on. It's going to be a very short mini series. We'll see how it goes. And finally, we have Robotech. We're getting to the set. So if you're familiar with Robotech, or you're a fan of the Robotech series, the animated show, the comic book does not follow the show exactly. It follows the major points. It follows the major roadmap of the Macross Saga or the Robotech series. But it doesn't. It has had some twists, some turns in here that are a little different. Like currently, Lisa Hayes is the captain of the SDF-1. Rick Hunter is blind. There's little things that have happened that have changed the story, but over the over the course of it, it's followed the major points. So at this point, the SDF-1 is at Earth trying to talk the Earth government into letting them drop off the civilians so that they could leave the planet and draw away the aliens, but leave the civilians behind, and they were denied. So now they're making a plan to go to Mars to pick up supplies because the Earth government will not let them leave the civilians behind. Excuse me. The art in the first half of the series so far was not great. They changed artists this time. It's and I think it's been this way for the last 2 or 3 issues. Henry Presedia is the artist. Pretty decent. I mean, not amazing, but not as bad as the first 4 or 5 issues were pretty rough. I didn't really care for the art at all, and I almost didn't. Like, I bought the first book and I read it, and I didn't really care for the art, but the story kept me going. I'm a huge fan. Oh my god, dog. Shush. He's going to keep going. I'm a huge fan of the series, so that's what kept me going. He must have heard the mail carrier. That's probably what's going on. So anyway, Robotech has been a good series as far as the writing goes. The art has been kind of up and down, but I've stuck with it enough because I'm such a big fan of Robotech. This is like the 2nd or 3rd time that they've done a comic series. This one is actually a more interesting story than the last one, because the last one was just a rehash of the TV show, which I watched religiously as a child, and I watched again as an adult, so I knew everything. This has at least been different enough that I feel like I'm getting something new for my money, rather than just somebody rewriting the TV show in comic book form. So anyway, I think that's it for the show. Watch tomorrow for the Division 2. As long as everything goes good, we will be streaming that beta on Saturday Randomness. I expect to be back Monday evening with more Monday Night Classics. I know my cold just kicked my ass this week, so I was out. But I shouldn't have any trouble getting back into the stream on Monday. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're watching the recording, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my books on Amazon. Let me pull them up for you here. So we've got Embers of Liberty on Amazon, available in Kindle, I believe, for $8.99 and paperback for $14.99. If you want a signed copy, go to trevorbierschbach.com. I've got an appearances page where I'll be at different conventions around the Midwest over the course of the year. You could catch me there. If you live too far away, I have a shop page where you can get signed copies of the books. Just a little bit more, mostly to cover the shipping. But you can get the books off of my website if you want a signed copy. I personalize it for you, everything, because I love you guys. When Heroes Rise just came out. This is my collection of short stories, mostly fantasy, science fiction. This is also available on Amazon, Kindle, paperback. You can get it on trevorbierschbach.com. And check those out too if you're interested. I would really appreciate it. The sale of these books and things helps me fund this and more books and more writing. So hopefully I can get more art out there so that you guys can enjoy it. Watch me be stupid and goofy and, you know, talk to me and all that good stuff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. You have a great night. I will see you tomorrow morning. Whether we have the Division or we're playing Pathfinder, one way or another, you're going to see me tomorrow morning. So thank you guys so much. You have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Much love.